Cinelog is a series where I go through the history of film and try to watch every important or interesting movie in chronological order. Today we cover the year 1947. 2 years off from World War II now, and a new geopolitical landscape is starting to take shape. The new America is lost, searching for meaning after the come down of their world-saving efforts against Germany and Japan, expressed by an ever-increasing output of film noir and dark, tragic melodramas. Criticism is not tolerated. The American people only respond to works that emphasize their importance or condemn their new enemies. Britain, on the other hand, continues to experience the long, hopeless decay of their once glorious empire as the age of colonialism reaches its last legs, something that regional filmmakers are all too eager to express. One of those filmmakers being Carol Reed with the film Odd Man Out, which I started the year on. And Jesus, what a movie to kick things off with. This is the most intense thing I've seen in a very long while. Essentially, a group of Irish nationalists try to rob a bank, but their leader gets left behind, and they spend the rest of the movie trying to save him. If you've ever seen the movie Good Time, this is like Good Time for boomers. Or G.I. Jones, I guess. I love this scene where Johnny gets taken in by these two medics, and they slowly discover that he's the guy who robbed the bank. The way the scene unravels gets more and more complicated by tension as it goes forward. The movie is consistently great at doing this and never lets up. It's a bit scattered thematically, and the script does have a few dead ends, but the through line of tension is really compelling and focused throughout. It's one of those movies that I'd recommend to literally anyone. After that, I watched Monsieur Verdoux. Monsieur Verdoux. The film is a black comedy about a murderer who marries wealthy older women and then kills them for their money, loosely based on a real-life French serial killer. The film was released following a scandal Chaplin had with actress Joan Barry, as well as accusations of communist ties which had crippled Chaplin's creativity for the several years that he was inactive. The film is a critique of capitalism that uses its titular character as a manifestation of its driving factors. Society rewards him for his murders, so he makes a business out of it. The acerbic deconstruction of America's most beloved economic system didn't do Chaplin any favors in the public eye. Until the 1970s, the majority of Americans would despise him, and he was eventually kicked out of the country. A dark time in American history where the land of the free wasn't so free. While I think this is Chaplin's most effective political statement in any of his films, I do think that the story could have benefited from some trimming, and pretty much all of the main character's family stuff could have been cut. I mean, the ladies are already bad enough. I don't think the character needed a noble motivation to do what he's doing. Plus, it would add more to his anti-capitalist themes. It's a very good movie though. I'd actually recommend it higher than some of his other more popular classics. Then I checked out the Archer's entry this year, and my god, they do not miss. Black Narcissus is about a covenant of nuns in India who attempt to bring civilization to a remote village in the Himalayan mountains. Y'all remember Silence by Marty? Yeah, this is like that, but fucked. Complications arise when a ripped guy who never wears his shirt turns up and all these horny-ass, sexually repressed-ass, unrealistically attractive nuns get the hots on for him. It's a banger movie, like what else do I have to say? No movie with that premise is ever going to suck. It's slower for the first hour or so, but it pays off so hard in the third act with this breathtaking climax. Could have done without the flashbacks, but it doesn't do too much to stifle the steadily unraveling plot. By the time they leave the village, they've caused more harm than good. It's a perfect allegory for the destruction of British colonialism and a clever examination of the collapse of their empire. Oh, and did I mention that the Technicolor looks gorgeous? One of the most visually appealing movies of the 1940s. So after watching 3 relatively heavy works of cinema, I decided to check out the rom-com classic The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. And what a cute little movie. It's about a woman who moves into a haunted house and forms a bond with the former owner, now ghost, an old sea captain named Daniel. Gene Tierney and Rex Harrison have really nice chemistry, and the script, despite being very simple, handles dialogue and scene construction marvelously. I've seen people interpret the film as a study of introversion, and I think that's the best angle to watch it from. It's a bit campy and not perfectly paced, but what are you gonna do? It's a classic rom-com. Then I watched Crossfire, which is notable for being the first B-movie to receive an Academy Award nomination for Best Picture. This is the movie I probably have the least to say about. It's a procedural noir drama about an investigator trying to solve an anti-Semitic murder by a group of American soldiers. If you'll like a good message movie, I won't steer you clear of this one. It really hones in on that theme and does a good job executing on it. Really love this flashback scene with the soldier Mitch. Gloria Graham is barely even in it, but she steals the whole show. The rest of the movie is solid, but only does a serviceable job developing its characters. Next, I watched Brute Force, and oh my god, this movie's violent. Essentially a classic prison escape flick with the added bonus of the old ultra-violence. The last 10 minutes are grisly. It basically turns into a war movie where everyone's getting massacred and it's bloody and macho and fatalist as hell. While that third act is absolutely worth it, the road there is a little bit rocky. I think the movie would have benefited from getting rid of a lot of those flashback scenes. The moral grays that come with the ambiguity of how each inmate ended up there is part of what makes the story so interesting, so it's a shame that the script has to go and ruin that. Plus, their backstories have little to Little. I actually can't say that word. I can't believe it. Plus, their backstories don't have much to do with the driving plot or theme. Still a solid movie, but yeah, very flawed. Then I watched Dark Passage. Humphrey Bogart plays an escaped convict accused of killing his wife, so he takes refuge with a mysterious character played by Lauren Bacall. What makes this movie so distinct, outside the star power of its two leads, is the fact that the first 40 minutes are almost entirely in first person, and those first 40 minutes are unequivocally the best part of the film. The first person perspective is weird, but very engaging, and the gradual unveiling of information is handled beautifully. Lauren Bacall is at her most captivating, certainly helped by the fact that she spends much of the movie looking directly into our eyes. Unfortunately, when the story starts revealing its secrets and gets over the visual gimmick, it starts to fall apart. Bogey does his shtick fine, but by 1947, I'm ready to see him branch out and try new roles. This stoic, seedy-eyed tough guy is starting to get old, and he does nothing new with it here. When the twists happen, they're either really nonsensical or very predictable, and my god, by the end it starts getting really campy. Even though I don't like where it ends up, I'd still recommend it for those first 40 minutes. Some really clever filmmaking that I think any cinephile should get a kick out of. After that, I saw Nightmare Alley. This one's about a con man who cheats his way to the top as part of a carnival act. This came about from Tyrone Power wanting to play a more serious role after starring in a slew of cartoonish adventure films. Unfortunately, he kind of ruins this movie. The writing isn't great either, but the way he plays the character is very hard to empathize with. He's playing him like a villain, which doesn't do good to get us invested in his story. A shame because the supporting cast is really damn good. I should also mention at this point that 1947 is the year where I'm really starting to notice the erosion of the Hays Code. If you don't know, the Hays Code was a censor for American films that went into effect in the mid-30s and basically eliminated any insinuation of sexuality, violence, or drug use in American cinema. By 1947, we've got stuff like this, which would never have flown in the 30s. If there's anything good to take away from Nightmare Alley, it's that it played a pivotal role in pushing the limits of what was allowed at the time. Next, I took a look at post-war China for The Spring River Flows East. This is often considered China's Gone with the Wind, which, if you couldn't tell by my grade, is not a sentiment that I agree with. I mean, it's trying very hard to be, though I don't remember any of the characters in Gone with the Wind being as flat as even the protagonists in this. Despite some really affecting war scenes, the blatant inability to write engaging drama or three-dimensional characters renders everything else coma-inducing. Only during the last 30 minutes does it actually achieve that sweeping melodrama that it spends the rest of the runtime desperately searching for. Then I saw Gentleman's Agreement, which is this year's Best Picture winner, and like most Best Picture winners, it's excruciatingly boring. Essentially a message movie about anti-Semitism whose driving theme would be better explained in a 5-minute speech than a crusty 2-hour Oscar drama. If you want to see a good anti-Semitism movie from this year, check out Crossfire. Oh, and Celeste Holm could step on me. The big noir film of the year was Jacques Tourneur's Out of the Past. Robert Mitchum plays a private detective in hiding who comes back to tie up loose ends from his old days. Not gonna say anything more because this is a movie that's easily spoiled. Really complex, challenging film noir about 3 people doing everything they can to outsmart each other. You have to be a real genius to write something this clever. The filmmaking is very low-key, often emulating the detached, expressionless confidence of its main character. To a certain extent, it does make things feel less visceral, but on the plus side, this is exactly what film noir is all about. Clinical cool. The film also features more of that risque code pushing that I've become keen on this year. Very good film noir. Also, hey, it's Kirk Douglas. Rounding out the year, we have Orson Welles' The Lady from Shanghai. Unfortunately, this is a pretty generic, by-the-numbers noir fare that's really only distinguished by Welles' name. It's not bad, but there's very little passion behind it. Clearly a paycheck movie for Welles. I will say that the ending is pretty interesting, and it's the only time when you remember who the director is. You really feel a lot of Welles' style come through in the climax here. But as I said, the majority isn't very engaging. Although there is something to note about Welles attempting very poorly to speak with an Irish accent.
Like the sharks, mad with their own blood, chewing away at their own selves.
I don't know why his character had to be Irish, but okay. So that wraps up 1947. There were a lot of movies, especially coming out of Japan, that I really want to go back and check out. Japan's post-war cinema is pretty cool to me, and I want to make a point to explore it more going forward. The big takeaways from this year are the continuing erosion of the Hays Code and the beginning of film noir's slow, ungraceful decay. I think the genre peaked in 1946. This was the first year where it started to feel redundant. Now, UK suspense thrillers, on the other hand.
In here, come on.
Somebody will see us, Lenny.
It's all right here, Molly.
No,
Now what's wrong?
I don't want to.
you would.
Yes, I know. But I've changed my mind. Anyway, Lenny, I've got to start.
I haven't seen you for 2 days. Where else can we go?
You'll see, Lenny. We'll have a place of our own. Lenny, there's somebody here.
No.
There is somebody.